Hello and welcome to Never on the Backfoot. In today's weekly live show, we will discuss the blockbuster matches this week at the ICC Men's ODI World Cup with our special guests and ardent cricket fans. We have Anuj and Srijan joining us. To give you a quick intro of who Srijan and Anuj are, so Anuj is a cricket journalist who currently works for Sportskeeda. He's an ardent cricket fan, it goes without saying, and he loves to watch the game. You can follow him on Twitter as well at AP Talks Cricket for his insightful observations of the game. Next, we have Srijan, who is an avid cricket watcher and greatly enjoys talking about the game. I'm sure you've heard him on our audio podcast as well. And as someone who's been watching the sport since 2011, he believes that the sport has so much to give all of us, not just in terms of life lessons, but also something bigger and beyond that as well. So, a warm welcome to our panelists, and thanks to all our viewers who are here with us. You can share your thoughts, comments, questions, basically anything in the live chat, and we will be happy to address them through our conversation as well. So, to give context to this discussion, we will be looking at matches from 29th October till yesterday's New Zealand versus Pakistan and Australia versus England. So, now without further ado, I think we can get started. So let's start off with match 29, India versus England, right? Again, a lot of us were looking forward to this match, although, England was coming in with not some great performances on their back. But India is looking really good. And the match pretty much witnessed India steamroll England, handing them that decisive 100-run defeat. I think the match still presents us a lot of talking points, right? So I'll start with Anuj on this one. So now England, won the toss. They decided to bowl first. Do you think somewhere that was a wise decision? And in retrospect, would they be regretting that?
Well, certainly I am not regretting that because like after 5 matches in a row when we chased it, we had to bat first and test the waters, how good we are, because if you have seen, we have seen today is the match against South Africa. That's the one team they have batted 5 times, first batting first, they have scored 350 plus every time. So we just wanted to know that where we stand as a team. Like chasing, I feel, is our comfort zone because the kind of batting that we have, the kind of experience that we have with KL Rahul at number 5, to arrest a collapse if possible. So I think England, opting to bowl first was a wrong decision on their part, because the games that have been happening on this relayed pitch in Lucknow, there has been seam movement on offer for the quicks under light. So definitely, when they won the toss and chose to bowl first, I thought that it was perfect for us because yeah, we were tested out of our comfort zone.
Definitely, because India, being put to bat first, it was a challenge, and we had that batting collapse that we will discuss. But Srijan, what are your overall thoughts on the total that was put up, and did you think it was formidable considering the pitch and the conditions?
No, I think when I first looked at the total, even Rohit Sharma had said that they were probably 20 or 30 runs short. Right? That was exactly what I felt as well. Somewhere between 250 to 280 was where I was seeing. But given the pitch and given the conditions, I think just the right total. We got just the right total on the board, and given England's batting, how it has shaped up this World Cup, I don't think anyone would have half expected England to chase it because uh, first they've not arrived batting wise in this World Cup, and secondly, bowling has been too good for any opposition to face, leave alone England. So uh, probably 20 runs short, but given how good our bowling was, I think we made a job of it. The job was done easy. So yeah.
Fair enough. And when you look at England too, now they had an even tougher outing thanks to the challenge, put up by the Indian bowling attack that really did not let them settle at any stage. So, Anuj, what are your thoughts on how that unfolded? And England was pretty much done and dusted, right?
I feel with England, they have gone away from what has worked for them, what has made them a force. Like, if you made some changes to bring Harry Brook in your team, if you feel he's the X factor, then why not play him? I feel that I understand Malan has the record that he has and has incredible numbers, but then playing an out of form Bairstow, the out of form Bairstow needed time, and for that you need an attacking opener besides him. Who will take the game, like just like Rohit does to give Shubman Gill the time, or sometimes it's vice versa. So I feel that they missed Jason Roy, and also if you took all the pains of replacing Harry Brook with him, and then he was the only batter who looked good against Afghanistan, and then he has not played a game. So like it doesn't make sense, just to fit Ben Stokes in there. Okay, he's a big player, but then Root, Malan, Stokes, it just becomes pretty much one dimensional, something that England are not known for. So I think that when the squad was announced, even the youngest batter being 33 years of age, they had kind of put all their eggs in one basket. With this being their last big thing, just will just go all out for it. So I think that playing in the subcontinent, you have to be proficient against spin. It's not that the ball is turning square every game, but they kind of go on the back foot every time, like to play the spin. Even if in the game against Afghanistan, if you are unable to go to the pitch of the ball and smother the spin, then it is going to cause problems. So I think that fundamentally, what has worked for England is putting pressure on the bowlers, not letting them bowl to their line and lengths. I think that is the one thing that they have not done, and yeah, it was a recipe for disaster.
And one more thing that I
Def-
just wanted to add about this England game, you see that Mark Wood has been struggling this particular World Cup, right? And not just Mark Wood, but even paces who bowl with higher pace. For example, Harris Roth has also struggled in this World Cup. So uh, it's not about going all pace, but having some strength in your bowling that restricts the opposition lineup. Uh, Willie up front bowled very well. He got some swing. So did Brooks as well. But high pace bowlers who bowl 145 and plus, they've kind of struggled in this World Cup. And one of the key areas where England have struggled with the new ball is with Wood as well. So that has also hurted their campaign so far.
Definitely. And we have an interesting comment coming in as well that England has literally neglected ODIs. If anyone remembers the ODI series against Australia after that 2022 T20 World Cup, they were literally making a bhel puri of their playing 11. So, Anuj, I'll take your thoughts first and Srijan then. What do you think about this? Like the decline that England is going through in their ODI setup, is it like, has it been systemic for some time or is it just a trend we're observing now?
There was an interesting discussion in commentary yesterday. That between 2015 to 2019, England played 88 ODIs, and 2019 to 23 they reduced it to like 42 or 44. So yeah, that does have an effect. But at the end of the day, we also need to understand that there were two T20 World Cups in between. So it's not that every team played enough ODIs and England didn't. My problem with England is their approach. The approach that gave you success, you are not sticking to that approach. See, even with the example of the Indian team, before the Asia Cup, we didn't know who our 4, 5, 6 was. So we were pretty much like England at that point. But it's the approach that is making the difference. It's the assurance. So, like even whoever heard Owen Morgan saying yesterday, I also tweeted this that there was a pain in his voice because he had taken pains to change that brand from 2015 to all that ultra attacking approach, and then now we are back to that. And what the one thing that England has got affected with this is their bowling as well, because when they went to the role of dual specialist, like we will do away with Anderson and Broad, and we will just focus on players who can give us both skills. But then when you have that batting depth, you need to be ultra aggressive at the top. If you don't do that, and plus now you don't have the specialist bowlers as well, apart from Rashid and Wood. So that is the problem for them.
But for me, the way I see it, or when I listen to people also talk, the experts talk, I listen to a lot of Prasanna Agoram. He goes by P Dog Speaks on YouTube. He was the former analyst, high performance analyst of South Africa. The recipe for success in ODI cricket in India, as he reckons, is a solid top four, and the solid top four is what is lacking for England, I guess, because as Anuj mentioned as well, the earlier World Cup they had someone like Jason Roy who could go after the bowling and give them those starts. That has been missing this World Cup. And Ben Stokes as well. He came back into the ODI setup just a series before the World Cup team was announced. He scored a century, but again missed a few matches due to injury, and then has come back. He's been indifferent, and that has put a lot of pressure on the other batters as well. And That's how the batting has struggled and their bowling as well. When you talk about their bowling, I don't think their bowling is suited for the Indian conditions. Not the strongest bowling attack that has come to the Indian shores for this particular World Cup. So struggles on both fronts, batting and bowling, and with spinners as well. With Rashid being your only lone spinner, and that has not worked so well for them. And Moeen Ali, his off spin compared to what it was in 2019 and compared to what it is today, there's a massive difference. So that has also been a struggle for England. So struggles all around. If you say what's coming ahead for England, probably a white ball overhaul in terms of changing their setup. But Butler is not a bad captain. At the end of the day, he won a T20 World Cup. Uh, he was part of the winning side for the 2019 World Cup as well. So probably they will be calling for a shift in template and shift in personnel as well. But probably they shouldn't be going that way in my opinion.
Definitely, a lot of thinking for them to do about getting the squad composition right going ahead. And we have some more questions in the live chat that we will address through our discussion when we get to England. Now, let's focus on match 30, which is Afghanistan versus Sri Lanka. Now, Afghanistan's fairy tale World Cup continues to, I think, leave all of us mesmerized and in awe of them, right? Now, they notched a win in such a fantastic manner versus Sri Lanka. And I think this is one game that was quite interesting to watch as well. So I'll again start with Srijan on this one. So Srijan, what are your overall thoughts on this game? Because Afghanistan won the toss, they decided to bowl first. So again, do you think that worked well for them because they have this knack of chasing well now? They have this template they follow. So things working well for them.
They are chasing well, yes, but somewhere I feel teams winning the toss this World Cup are so hell bent on chasing the target, and most often than not, chasing has not worked in their favor. Yes, there's been a little bit of view, but runs on the board and putting pressure on the opposition has always worked, and that's something that's been a recipe for success for World Cup teams, and that's something that World Cup teams in this particular edition of the World Cup are not doing, which is surprising. But having said that, having won the toss and choosing to bowl first, restricting Sri Lanka to 250 odd on that Pune wicket, which is known to be a batting wicket, Afghanistan were always in the game, and the way they clinically chased the target, that was something that was noteworthy as well. I think the broadcast cameras showed at some point that they had targets marked out at each interval, like for example, at the end of the 10th over, at the end of the 15th over, at the end of the 20th over, how much they need to be in order to chase the target. And they did stick on to the template, and as you said, they're becoming a very good side chasing. So overall, a good game for Afghanistan.
And I've said this, on a lot of my lives and even I think the audio podcast that now if Afghanistan wins, it doesn't even seem like an upset. It just seems like a win that any other team would notch up. So Anuj, now Afghanistan has been clinical, right? They've been amazing with their performances so far, with the bat and ball through the World Cup, and definitely you can't brand them as underdogs. And somewhere do you see them actually, break through into the semi-finals, or is that a really far-fetched thought?
No, I mean certainly not a far-fetched thought. Even England thought the same. Like I remember a preview video. I think it was happening on Sky Sports. I think where Michael Atherton was saying that Ben Stokes is almost fit, and they would have pushed him to play the Afghanistan game if it would have been a big game. I thought that was a kind of a disrespect to the opposition. Like every game is a big game, especially when you have played two and lost one. Like you can't afford, but still, that's the way. I think what has worked for Afghanistan is that they have shown that they have more than one template to win a game. I think the stereotype around it, I even wrote a piece on this yesterday. The stereotype around Afghanistan was that the spinners will, restrict the opposition on a spin-friendly pitch on a rank turner, and then you will get around 200 target, which the batters will chase down. That too, if the openers give a start. I think everything about that has been different this time. If you see, there three, four, five batters have been scoring more than the openers, which is something that was not seen even in the as late as the Asia Cup. The openers were doing the bulk of the scoring, and yeah, as Srijan rightly mentioned, the way they have structured their chase, the kind of criticism that the captain got in the first two games, I think against England and then against India also, for batting a bit on a lower strike rate. He has then notched it up, and on three occasions he has stayed not out at the end. So that is, it shows that they are ready to learn on the go. And I certainly feel that, that there is a chance. It's not that they have to win both the games to qualify. Maybe even one win is enough. So, South Africa against South, we have seen South Africa crumble against Netherlands. So anything can happen in Ahmedabad. Also, Australia game has a certain history to it. If many will know that they cancelled their series against Afghanistan, and Naveen Ulak was pumped up yesterday on Instagram. He put a story that we will see now what whether Cricket Australia takes 2 points or human rights. So I think already it is set up nicely, and what better ground than Wankhede? Like it's a perfect setting for the teams. I think on a pitch like Wankhede, the difference between the two teams gets reduced because when you can play through the line, when your bowlers get help, when they hit the right areas, it becomes a lot more even than it looks. So I think that definitely they have a chance, to win at least one. They can finish on 10 points. That is what I would say.
That's true. And to just take a point from Anuj, so now Afghanistan was supposed to have that series versus Australia, but Australia, cancelled last minute, citing everything that was transpiring there. They didn't feel it was the most ideal thing to do. But now in this World Cup scenario, they have to play against Afghanistan. So, Srijan, do you somewhere think it's hypocritical that Australia had that stance a little early on, and now, because like the World Cup is at stake, they would still go on and play the game?
It's difficult to comment on this because both the sides have their own point to put forth. But if Australia maintain that moral high ground that they projected to maintain, they still can go and forfeit their game and stand for what they believe. Because we saw England do that in 2003. They refused to go to Zimbabwe, and that became a very big political issue later on, where ECB and the Zimbabwe cricket, they cut off their bilateral ties, and you know there was no bilateral cricket between both teams for a very long time. And even today, it's been ages since both teams have played. So Australia can maintain their stance on this and go ahead and forfeit the game, but and push the message to the larger crowd. But that will be too much of a thing to do at this point of the World Cup, because both teams have qualification at stake, and I don't think Australia will do that. Uh, but having said that, both of them have their points to put forth on the platform, and from a very diplomatic stance, I don't see which side I'm taking politically. That's for another day. But that will be a cracker of a game, the Australia and Afghanistan game. If it goes ahead in one KD, it will be a great game.
Definitely, and it's nice to see cricketers actually take stances. Otherwise, most of the times we just see them end up silent on most of these political issues as well. So it will be interesting to see what happens to this game. Now, let's move on in our discussion and focus on match 31, right? Bangladesh versus Pakistan. Now, when you look at Pakistan, right, they've had quite the dull World Cup and they really needed a win. And perhaps this win served as a reminder that they're very much here to stay, and they completely outplayed Bangladesh in this encounter. So let's start with Anuj on this one. Anuj, what are your thoughts, like overall thoughts on the game? Because again, here we observe Bangladesh won the toss. They decided to bat first. I mean, to take a decision like that, you must be really confident that, hey, the batting is looking good. But through the World Cup, we've seen them have so many ups and downs and not those commendable performances, right? So, what did you make of it?
I think with Bangladesh, there have been a lot of off the field issues. It has been a World Cup similar to what India had in 2007, discontent in the dressing room. After scoring 100, Mahmudullah comes out in the press and says that there are some things I want to say, but I will. This is not the right time and everything. Tamim Iqbal plays, he doesn't play, he again plays, he's again dropped. I think these things certainly don't help a team. On top of that, the 11 that you have, what Ravi Shastri, he mentioned it sarcastically, but in a way, it is pretty much that, that they just take chits and decide who will open and who will go for number three, number four. I think that is the one thing that will, in ODI setup, as Srijan said, with a strong top four, you need to have a settled top four as well. Your five and six can change as per the conditions, as per if you're 200 for two, you might want to promote someone else. But I think definitely this Mehdi has played from number 1 to number 8. I think that's a ridiculous stat to be true. So I think that is certainly, it it came at a time, at the right time for Pakistan. They needed those 2 points, and I don't think the result of the game was ever in doubt.
Certainly, and I'll direct this question to Srijan. So now, obviously, the match didn't quite live up to that billing. But if you had to recollect any top moments from the game that really stood out for you, what would that look like?
I think Fakhar Zaman coming in for Pakistan, I think that was the whole difference on at the top, because Imam ul Haq again has been a little bit indifferent. He has had a good tournament coming into the World Cup, but in the World Cup he's not lived up to what uh, he's stated to. But Fakhar Zaman again coming up against all the and having that intent to score those runs, those 80 odd runs, that made the difference for Pakistan eventually. So that was the top moment for me in the game. And again, Fakhar Zaman in the game against New Zealand as well. We'll get to that eventually, but he's been the difference for Pakistan in these last two games, and that's shown on the points table as well. 2 wins in 2 games. So interesting times for Pakistan also. They're also in contention for the semi-final spot, and yeah, it would be great if they can make it, because at present India is a sure shot. They've qualified, but seeing none other Asian sides in qualification, apart from Afghanistan and Pakistan, both have a slim chance. But not seeing an Asian side in a subcontinent World Cup is a little bit sad. But if Pakistan do make it eventually, or even Afghanistan, that will be great.
Definitely great signs for the game as well. If Afghanistan does make it. Now, Bangladesh has certainly lost plot in this World Cup, with all the off field drama that's kind of, spilling onto the on field as well. So, Anuj, where do you think Bangladesh can go from here? Again, have a whole restructuring and, introduce more new players into the setup and just have a whole management overhaul, perhaps?
I think they don't need to look too far. Their under 19 team beat us in the final in 2020, so the talent is certainly there. The likes of Tawid Ridoy. I think there is one more opener, I think, and there's one Tanzit Tamim. I think all these players, they are good, right? The one thing I want is, they should not just go to and fro when it comes to Shakib as the captain. Like, there has been too many times they have taken the U-turn. Just go with your gut feel. If it is Shanto, let it be Shanto. If it is Litan Das, let it be Litan Das. Just go ahead with it. Don't come back. And I think this is the one thing that has troubled them a lot. People talk about Afghanistan, but Bangladesh going to the final of the 2012 Asia Cup, and then just losing it, almost winning the Asia Cup. There were a lot of talk about how the next decade is going to be theirs, but it has certainly not been that way. So it is a decline for them, but I would certainly say that it's been a decline because of off the field issues, because you don't win an under 19 World Cup if you don't have the talent. So that's the one thing that they need to sort, leadership and direction. That's the first thing.
I just had one more thing to add on Bangladesh as well. I think Bangladesh are a good side, and as Amit said as well, if it is lit on us, let it be lit on us, or if it is Shanto, let it be Shanto, and let them have their say on what they want to do. But yeah, the thing that I wanted to say about about Bangladesh is, you know, they're a good side. They do have the talent as well, and with all the outfield drama that's been happening, that's certainly not helped their cause, uh, and you certainly don't want that coming into a World Cup. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, definitely, they'd look to sort out those issues, hopefully, and, come up with better performances. And we will talk about, these two teams a little later on as well, because we still have matches of theirs. Let's move on to match 32, right? South Africa versus New Zealand. Now, again, this was a game that was quite exciting because of the sheer tenacity that both the teams bring in and have been consistently displaying. But somewhere we saw that New Zealand was properly outclassed in this match by South Africa. So I'll start with Anuj on this one. What were your overall thoughts on the game? Because again, here New Zealand won the toss. They decided to bowl first, but I think again, they lost plot and they just were too expensive, and South Africa completely dominated. So what do you think transpired there?
Yes, see, certainly, the way South Africa have played, if you win the toss, you ask them to chase. Yeah, like in a game like today where India and South Africa both have qualified, maybe not that much is at stake. You can still try and challenge yourself, to restrict South Africa to a score. But in a game where you need 2 points, I thought that New Zealand simply just gave the initiative to South Africa. They would have happily batted. I think the concept of due, it is a lot more important in T20s than it is in ODIs, because in T20s both the teams get to play under the lights, and I think that is the one thing that teams are not using it well. Uh, when it comes to bowling under lights, that is a massive advantage. You just can't give it everything to Dew and just leave it. That is the one thing that certainly I think that not just New Zealand but teams also, like if now with India, I just hope that wherever the semi-final happens, which it's Wankhede or at Eden Gardens, they are grounds where the pacers get help under lights, seam movement happens. So even with New Zealand, like if you had a depleted attack, it made sense, to bat first and you give your bowler the cushion as much as possible. But yeah, that didn't happen, and certainly it is like showing a red flag to a bull. South Africa, they just love batting first. So yeah, once they scored that many amount of runs, yeah, it was always going to be difficult without Williamson.
Certainly, and even when you look at the fact that New Zealand really couldn't get their bowling right, having just served it on a platter to South Africa to bat first. Srijan, where do you think New Zealand lost sight of this match? And don't you think South Africa has also been quite a revelation with respect to the big batting totals they're putting? And they just seem to have acclimatized to the conditions far easier than other oppositions. So, do you think it's finally time that South Africa will shed that Joker's tag and go all the way, perhaps?
It's difficult to comment whether they will shed that C tag that they have and go ahead. But again, they're a sure shot of what they've qualified. Uh, and beyond that, what happens on that particular day is not for us to comment, because one bad day can throw you out of the competition, and that's something that's happened both to India and South Africa as well. And I think the same tag that a lot of people tend to use for South Africa is a bit harsh on them, because again they've been a team that's had their share of off the field troubles as well. But coming into this World Cup, they've had Quinton de Kock in good form. They've had someone like a Klaassen, who is a very good player of spin, coming in at 4 or 5 and then conquering the ball and scoring centuries for fun. So on a batting perspective, that's worked for them. And then Marco Janssen providing that all-round sense of filling those roles both in terms of batting and in terms of bowling as well. That's also worked for them. Uh, Maharaj and Shamshi being their spinners. Both of them have bowled decently well. So overall, South Africa have looked a good side. And in terms of leadership as well, Temba Bavuma has been leading this side exceptionally well. He might not have contributed a lot in terms of the bat, but just from a leadership perspective, his strategies that he's been using, all of them have been on point. So they have gone to the semi-finals, but what will happen on that day is not something that we can predict or comment on, because it's just one good day of cricket that can take you to the finals, and then another good day of cricket will eventually lead you to win the World Cup. But having qualified for the semi-finals, they always were in contention. They were a favorite side, according to me. But beyond that, on that particular day, what happens? No one can.
That's actually true and well put also, because we have seen how bad patches of cricket has costed India as well. And New Zealand somewhere had a great start to the World Cup, but now we have seen a few disappointing performances. I hope that's not a huge dampener on their semi-final prospects as well. But I think we need to give due credit to South Africa, right? The way they have turned up this World Cup, and I think if any other team that's looking as polished and well performing besides India has to be South Africa. So let's see how they fare in their remaining matches as well. We have an important encounter today versus India. We will discuss that quite shortly in this discussion. But let's get to our match 33, which is India versus Sri Lanka, right? Now, India was obviously riding on a six-match winning streak, and this win versus Sri Lanka further solidified all the claims that India has been properly dominating in this World Cup, and the World Cup is ours for the taking. So. I'll start with Srijan on this one. What were your overall thoughts on this game? Now, Sri Lanka won the toss. They decided to bowl first. Again, was it a wise decision or something in retrospect they would actually regret?
No, as soon as the toss got over, I messaged on the Never on the Backfoot group saying that Sri Lanka won the toss and decided to lose the match again. Because on a Wankhede wicket where South Africa also scored 399 or 400, and then decimated the opposition later on. Uh, if you win the toss, again, I've said this before, a lot of teams have preferred to chase, but in this World Cup specifically, yes, there's been due, but there's not been so much due that has been a difference between both sides that the chasing side has a lot of advantage. So if you win the toss, bat first, put runs on the board. That has always been the recipe for success for teams as well. And having won the toss and then deciding to bowl first, that's where Sri Lanka completely lost the plot. The first 10, 12 overs, Indian batters did struggle. Dilshan Madhusanka, he bowled a good spell. Uh, Samira as well. He bowled a good spell. So was it Samira? Am I getting it wrong? I am slightly confused. Yeah.
I think it's
So
Madhushankar, right?
Madhushanga and the other fast bowler. Uh, so both of them bowled good spells with the new ball, and then after that it was for the Indian batters to who were set. Both Gill and Kohli, they scored runs. Someone like you know Kohli scoring all those runs in anticipation for number 49. I think that was great for the crowd to watch. So overall, good batting performance, and in terms of bowling as well, I think that was proper annihilation. And to see the Indian pacers do such a thing to Sri Lanka, not just on one occasion, but twice in this one-day wicket as well. I think that was great. From a fast bowler's perspective, I think watching that lineup of Bumrah, Shami, and Siraj in action, that was great to watch. And a lot of people were calling for Siraj's rest because he's been playing continuously since the Asia Cup. But something there's something about Sri Lanka that seems to get the better of him. We've seen that in the Asia Cup final as well. But yeah, all three fast bowlers got in, decimated the opposition, and then the rest was history, as they say.
Right, and I believe Anuj also, was watching this match live from the Wankhede Stadium, right? So, Anuj, how was your experience like, watching the game? I believe you were watching it as a fan and not as a journalist, right? So, any top moments from the game, and could you just run us through that?
I see, definitely. I have been to Wankhede a number of times, but I haven't seen a better atmosphere than what it was that day. Maybe it's the World Cup thing, because others all have been bilaterals that I've gone to. So definitely that weighs in. But the way that the stadium is also built, it's an angle of about 80 degrees. So you're almost like on the top of the action, even if you are on level three. So I think more than the seating number of seats or everything, it's not the biggest stadium in the country, but the way that it gets behind a team, there are very few that can, in terms of intimidating to the opposition. You certainly don't want to play India when they are bowling under lights in Wankhede. That was the kind of thing. And as Srijan said, the Sri Lankan thing, it's the way they were bowling, they could have got any team 3-4-4 at that point. And the way the crowd was behind them, the way they were cheering for every single player, the fact that even someone as big as Sachin Tendulkar comes out and tags the North Stand gang, the and people talk about North Stand, even Rohit talked about. So like it shows that the effect that it has on the players, the adrenaline rush that it gives them to give 10%, 20% more than the 100% that they give. I think so. That's one of the reasons why I don't want India to play Pakistan. Because they will lose that advantage of Wankhede. So yeah, let's see what happens about that. But definitely in that match, definitely, the atmosphere was something else. Under lights, that's something I'll never ever forget. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, all the BTS we got to see, from your experience there was just phenomenal. And now Sri Lanka, right? This is the second time they're facing a drubbing of this nature. I mean, we saw the Asia Cup and now this match. So, Srijan, what are some of the areas that Sri Lanka would actually look to work on from this match and even the World Cup at large? I mean, I'm not discrediting their journey so far, having come from the qualifier all the way to this World Cup and in the absence of key players, they lost because of injury. They still look like a formidable side, but something is not working, right? So, how would you look at it?
I think they're a good side overall. They have a good core of 4 5 players that will take them to the next World Cup as well. Someone like Patum Nesanka at the top, he's been someone that I've looked forward to watch. Sarira Samaravikrama, the other batter as well, he's been good. Somewhere where the Sri Lankan team has struggled is with the loss of Hasaranga because that was a huge loss. We've seen how he was in the LPL as well, and not just with the ball but with the bat as well. He was batting at the top of the order for their side there, and then coming into the World Cup, his particular loss the team, I think that has hurt them a long way. And then, as you said, a lot of injuries. Someone comes in, gets injured, the other person comes in, he gets injured, another person comes in. So they've not had a good core of 11 players that they can put on field at all times. But having said that, they're a good. They have a good core of 4 or 5 players. Someone like a Tikshana, he struggled as well. Uh, so they certainly can turn things around. But at the moment, you know, there's not much they can do. They're out. They're almost out of the semi-final race, if not completely out of it. Uh, Things look good for them for the 27 World Cup. As I said, these core of 4 or 5 players that they have, they need to back them, and they need to look to back them and get them whatever they want, so that they'll be in good form towards the 27 World Cup. That's where they should be looking at it.
Definitely. I agree that Sri Lanka will have a lot of heart to take from this World Cup. So many takeaways, and they can definitely build on this. And once their key players return, I think Sri Lanka will be unstoppable and can actually present themselves as healthy competitors to any team on any given day. So now let's move on to match 34, Netherlands versus Afghanistan. Now again, Afghanistan raked up another important win and made themselves look like serious semi-final contenders. So the World Cup they've been having so far, I mean, we've discussed here also, has been nothing short of magical, right? So, Anuj, what were your overall thoughts on the game? Now, again, Netherlands won the toss. They decided to bat first. Do you think that backfired somewhere? Because, obviously Afghanistan has a reputable bowling attack. So, was that probably the best decision they could have taken?
I think it played in Afghanistan's hands because they played an extra spinner. Maybe in the evening the ball supports the seamers more than the spinners. Maybe it gets a bit better to bat on if there is a bit of dew. So I think that if Afghanistan played an extra spinner, and knowing that they had chased successfully in back-to-back games and they're asked to chase again, they would have said thank you very much. So like that, definitely that worked for them. And this is one of those games where I spoke about the stereotype where the spinners set it up for the batters and then they did the rest. And once again, the middle order stepping up, that I think that is heartening for Afghanistan. It's not Gurbaz or nothing. So that is good for them. And that's in fact a bit dangerous that Gurbaz has not yet been at his best this World Cup. If he turns it on at the Wankhede, which is a pitch that will suit him, then all the best Australia. Yeah.
That's true. And now, Srijan, obviously, Netherlands has come from the World Cup qualifier directly onto this World Cup. And I think we should give them credit for the kind of World Cup they've had, notching up important wins and also, pulling off that spectacular win versus South Africa. But if you had to look at this objectively, what do you think are some of the areas that Netherlands would look to work on from this match? Because we know how they don't play a lot of frequent cricket, and the ICC ODI Super League is their go-to source to get these matches. So somewhere do you believe like an investment in their cricket and having a lot more bilateral series with your test playing nations will help that cause?
A lot of Netherlands players play domestic cricket in England and South Africa as well. So from a competition perspective, of getting match practice and getting ideal game time. That's always been there for at least some of the Netherlands players, if not all of them. But having said that, again, these the Netherlands team as well. They also have a good core of 4 or 5 players, and they're in chance of qualification for the Champions Trophy in 25. So that's something that they'll take hearts out of. Uh, but having said that, it's been truly remarkable for Netherlands the way they've come into this World Cup. Uh, they were, literally requesting other sides, to come and play with Netherlands so that they get some match practice coming to the World Cup. It's been a story for the ages, and I've always been someone that likes the underdog story, and Netherlands have provided that underdog story as well. So, truly heartwarming to see Netherlands come this far, and they are in chance for qualification for the Champions Trophy as well, and that will be some. And England might not be there, well and truly not be there. So. Uh, that is another great story that Netherlands can take pride from. From a overall perspective, they've had a few players stepping up at the right time. For example, and in this particular match as well, the game against Afghanistan that they lost a couple of days back, running between the wickets cost them the game. We saw 3 runouts in total in the innings, and that's something that came back to hurt them because a few players got starts. Max Woodward, he got a start. Cybran Engelbrecht is another player that's been rated highly. He got a start as well. So uh, them not carrying forward the starts that they got and then eventually perishing to an Afghanistan spin attack. That's where they lost it.
Certainly, and I think Netherlands, they've had these match winners and really good match performers who I think might get even picked for the IPL. So let's hope we get to see that because there are some really talented players that deserve to play. So I will be excited to see the IPL auction just to see these players get picked up. Now let's move on to our next point under focus. We have match 35, New Zealand versus Pakistan. Now I think this had the potential to be that high scoring thriller, but Rain unfortunately had the final say, and Pakistan won on account of DLS by like 21 runs, right? And this was very disappointing because New Zealand put up such a big total, and losing in the manner they did, because Rain had the final say was very unfortunate. So I'll start with Anuj on this one. Anuj, obviously it was a phenomenal batting performance from New Zealand, right? You're posting 401 on the board, and Rachin Ravindra again scored that scintillating century. So what did you make of that first innings?
Yeah, he is a special player. I had spoken a couple of years ago to his coach, uh, who was a coach of Wellington Firebirds at that time, Mr. Glenn Pocknell, and he was coaching these three players. Finn Allen, Devon Conway had just moved from South Africa to New Zealand, and Rachin Ravindra. So at that time, Devon Conway was making waves with his performances, and he also had an impact in the WTC final. So that was one point where he told me that that there is one guy who's coming through. His name is Rachin Ravindra. He has the potential to become the next top order great for New Zealand. And to say that 2 years out and then to do that in the slot that Kane Williamson has done it for New Zealand is, it speaks about the talent of the coach as well as the talent of the player. The way they found it out in him. I think the more he bowls, he will also become a bowling option. And whoever saw that Kanpur test in 2021 where he saved the match for New Zealand, it showed that he had the temperament to uh, to go all the way. And just the way he batted against England in the first game, it showed that he's not a raw talent. He's a finished product, complete product that already the decade belongs to him. I certainly feel that way. His his ability to play spin and pace equally well for any overseas player, that's good enough to dominate any condition. So yeah, that's for sure. And I read a comment that yeah, he's going to make it a big thing in the IPL auction. Certainly, I certainly feel that it's not the last time he has played at the Chinnaswamy. Certainly.
Yeah, and a lot of fan pages were like, get Rachin Ravindra and RCB, and he seems so much at ease here. So Yeah, it will be exciting to see him in the IPL. I mean, playing for any team, he will definitely be that impact player as well. Now, Srijan, when you look at Pakistan's run chase as well, I think they had a great start, right? But somewhere I felt that they looked en route to, chase that total down as well. So I know this is very speculative. Like, if the match actually played out, do you see Pakistan having chased down that, massive total of 400?
Actually, I was rooting for Pakistan to chase this down because they were in the game. Babar Azam, though there was a lot of criticism during the rain break about his strike rate and the way, at the rate he is going, I felt that he was providing the ideal foil for Fakir Zaman to go for the killing at the other end. So that was great to watch. And even if one of Babar or Fakir Zaman fell eventually, they had someone like an Iftikhar who is reputed to be a big hitter. So they were right in the chase, and unfortunately, Rain had the final say. But it would have been a cracker of a game if Pakistan did finally manage to chase this round, and it would have been a game that not just Pakistan fans but world cricket will be remembering in a long time. Had Pakistan chased this round, so uh, slightly unfortunate that that didn't happen. But having said that, Pakistan did get two crucial points, and right now are right in chase for the fourth spot. So it'll be good to see if uh, Pakistan eventually make it to the semi-finals because we have another Asian side that's there. So
Definitely. And I think another discourse that we saw around was how DLS method should not be really considered as, the best method to adjudge the winner of a match. So, Anuj, and I think I'll take even Srijan's opinion on this one. What do you think about this? Because a lot of times we see how the DLS method can go badly wrong. I mean, it's at the end of the day just calculations and speculations, right? About how the match could have played out and everything based on what was transpiring then. So, Anuj, I'll start with you and then Srijan, what do you think? Should the DLS be scrapped? And in situations when it rains, should they just look at a reserve day or, just give 1 point each to both the games and just move on instead of having this a team winning?
Yeah, see, I would like to have alterations in that DLS. To scrap it wouldn't be fair on the team that is doing well on the day. If you have had 70 overs of cricket, like, you need a result. So that's understandable. But then you need to add factors like, if, for example, now Pakistan got that target because they had 9 wickets in hand. But you should just not look at the 9 wickets, because 9 wickets of Pakistan are not the same as 9 wickets of South Africa, let's say, or India. So uh, I think the way that they have batted in, let's say, if it's used in a tournament, the trends that the way others have batted in the tournament, if they have collapsed a lot, if there is not much that the remaining batters have offered, that should reflect in the target. I think the history of the players, the recent history, be it year wise, or if you're using it in a tournament, be it tournament wise, that how has this, if Iftikhar is coming to bat, how has he fared in the World Cup so far, how has Rizwan fared so far? Because that I felt was it did favor Pakistan a bit, because the 9 wickets that they had, that this is my opinion, that I don't think they would have chased it down, because 400 in 50 overs, it's a big ask. And New Zealand are certainly smart enough. They know that they were just one moment away. If they would have picked Fakar, I think that would have been the end of the chase, because they only have Iftikhar to play with that intent. That is the reason why when Fakar was out of the team, these guys weren't winning games. So I think that the history of the players that were to come, the 9 wickets that were remaining, I think if that plays a factor, the target gets increased accordingly. So it will certainly not be as accurate as it would have been on a normal day where it doesn't rain, but it would at least get closer to reality.
yeah, for one, I've never really understood how the DLS targets are calculated. But having said, even with the reduced target, uh, Pakistan was 200 for one in 25 overs, and they needed another 183 runs, if I'm not wrong, or at the start of the first and at the end of the first rain break, and then after the rain eventually came back, they needed 183 runs in 19.3 overs, if I'm not wrong. They were in the chase, according to me personally. If Fucker kept going, but if Fucker fell and then they had Estikar to come in, and then Rizwan. Rizwan is not, known to be a flashy player. He is someone who is more conventional. So probably they would have got it in our imagination. And uh, what are we at the end of the day if we can't imagine a great win, right? So it's up to imagination to think that Pakistan would have eventually won the game, but again rain robbed us of it. Uh, and having to say on the DLS, I've never really understood how the calculations are taken, but 341 in 41 overs seemed a lot better than 450 overs. So probably would have got there, or probably wouldn't have got there. So two ends of the spectrum, uh, and it would have been great to see if Pakistan would have got there as well. So yeah.
Either case, I believe, rain really robbed us of what could have been a thriller in this World Cup because I think the way Pakistan was progressing, we could have probably seen them chase it down. Or as Anuj said, their middle order, which has been quite fragile this World Cup, might have gotten exposed, had they lost a few more wickets. But yeah, New Zealand, even after that total lost the game, and that became like a big talking point. Anyway, let's move on to our next match under focus. That's Australia versus England, right? Now, somewhere Australia had a very tricky start to the World Cup, but now they seem to, understanding and acclimatizing conditions and, getting their playing 11 right and riding on that good form that, they've amassed over the last few wins. They completely, defeated England. And England also, they look like a very defeated version of themselves as well. It was quite visible in the match. So I'll start with Anuj on this one. What are your thoughts on the game? Because England won the toss, they decided to bowl first, and I think they did restrict Australia to some extent because we know what a tough batting team Australia presents, right? But still, they were able to restrict Australia. So, what did you make of it?
Yeah, I think 287 they would have taken that at the toss. Again, I again think they didn't play to their strength, which is bat first, bat the opposition out of the game. If you have Adil Rashid coming at number 10, that is your strength, and who knows, under lights it will swing a bit more. I think the New Zealand game played on their minds where they chased it easily under lights, and they felt that even we will do that. But I think different teams have different approaches. If that works for them doesn't mean it should work for you. And it's not that you haven't tried, you have tried it. You have tried bowling first, you have been batted out by South Africa. So I think they could have batted first, but again, yeah, 287 they should chase. But again, as we speak about it, first ball Bairstow strangled down the leg side. uh, Joe Root also going. So I think that they again missed that factor where a Jason Roy or a Phil Salt, someone of that caliber, just gets the free license. Just gets the license that go give me 10 over 60, make a quick fire 30, get out. It's okay. We have the enforcers in the middle. But that's when the thing comes, that if Ben Stokes comes and plays, a 63 runs in 85 balls kind of knock, that's good only when there are others around who play with a strike rate of more than say 110 around. So I think that is one area where, as mentioned before, they have been pretty one dimensional. Root, Malan and Stokes all playing the same way, and then it got a bit too much for them. I think Adam Zampa was the difference both with bat and ball. He's 29, shouldn't be forgotten. uh, I think Australia's coming back to form has been a lot down to how Adam Zampa has performed. Those crucial middle order wickets. Even I think even before getting Moeen Ali out, I think England were in the game. With that batting depth, 100 in 10 overs is not a big ask for them, and they almost got there. So if had Moeen Ali stayed for another couple of overs, you just don't know what would have happened. So yeah, they should have chased it, but then it shows why they are the where they are in the table. So yeah.
And it's quite baffling, to see England go the way they are in this World Cup because a lot of their players are experienced campaigners, having played in Indian conditions through the IPL and even through a lot of other bilateral series. And Cricket Darshan also earlier had pointed out how, if Liam Livingston and Moeen Ali are your starting all rounders in ODIs, it is evident that they somewhere have this T20 mindset that they're trying to bring in this ODI setup as well. So, Shrison, do you think this is where England has really suffered because they're not able to find this right mix of players for their ODI setup, and they're trying to bring in their T20 players on here as well?
True, I agree to that to a certain extent because the way England have looked at this format, especially the 50-over format, is that it's an extended version of a T20 game, and that does not work all the time. Yes, you won the World Cup in 2019 having the same approach where you back oppositions out of the game, but 4 years down the line, the game has moved, and so to have and so players also have to change their mindset and change their way of playing, and that's something that England unfortunately haven't done. Having having ODIs as an extended version of T20s does not always work, and that's reflected in their results as well. And you do not expect that from world champion side. And even in the 2019 World Cup, it's not that they were outright favorites or they trounced other oppositions to claim a top spot in the top four for the 2019 World Cup. They did have other results going their way, or that slight bit of luck that's always needed for a champion side to carry it forward. They did have that on their side at that point of time, but 2023 the game has changed, the format has changed. You do play a lot less ODIs right now, so carrying that mindset has not worked for them, and probably they need to rethink their strategies as well. Having said that, from a personal standpoint, in terms of players, uh, I don't think they need a complete overhaul. As I said before as well, Butler is still a good captain. I don't know how many years he can carry forward playing, but still he should stick around this team at least for a year or two going ahead. So things do look good, but they need to change the way they look at this format. And especially from 23 to 27, we don't know how many more ODIs we are going to play. So effectively mapping that strategy out and identifying your core players, saying that this is how we need to play the ODI format, this is how we need to play the T20 format. Drawing that marker difference between the two formats is going to be necessary because you can't go slam bang bang all the time. So that's something that England will be thinking about.
Fair enough. And Cricketer Tashan had brought in another point of, how Morgan leaving England in 2022 really confused the management about, who their potential captain could be and even the leadership style, which could have caused all this chaos in the team as well. So, Anush, do you feel somewhere the ECB, really threw in all the resources to ensure that the 2019 World Cup was theirs? And after that, they focused so much on limited overs cricket and this whole change in captaincy that happened, which could have potentially costed them?
Certainly, I feel at least with respect to Morgan, he could have played easily till 2023 World Cup. Should have. I think when you plan a 4 year period, if you suddenly leave the captaincy in between, it becomes difficult. Uh, and I see, for me, I think that if they think it's an extended version of T20s, they should play that way. I think what has hurt them hasn't been Moeen Ali or Livingston down the order. It has been the top five. It has been the specialist batters who had a brand of cricket in their mind. Someone like a Jason Roy, as late as IPL 2023, he came in a KKR side that was struggling, and suddenly played out of the skin to get them some kind of momentum. Those were Indian pitches as well. That was the same white ball. Those were the same quality spin. I remember he hit Jadeja for 4 sixes in an over, if I'm not wrong. So you need to, even Rohit Sharma wasn't in great form coming into the World Cup, but you saw what he did. So like you cannot write off someone like David Warner. You cannot write off quality players just because they're not in form. You can't drop them. So I think that definitely played with them in their minds. That, and if you want to have players like Stokes, Malan, where you are scoring 270, then you have to have a stronger bowling attack to defend it. Then you can't have the likes of Vokes and Sam Curran and all these players who can do a bit with the ball, bit with the bat. Then you have to find specialist things. So I think that it is just that their mindset has not uh, coincided with their template. I think that is the biggest reason why they are at the bottom of the table. Otherwise, even at their worst day, they should be at least in the top six, I feel. So I think it is just in their mind. These are the same players, who won them the World Cup 4 years ago. And it's in white ball cricket, the conditions don't really change that much big. Yeah, there is certainly an odd game where you will lose because the ball is gripping a lot more than you expected. But you won't get better batting pitches than Wankhede, or the one where they played the other match also. I think that it's all in the head. You like you ask any team who is coming from overseas, where do you want to bat? They will say this Eden Gardens, Wankhede, Ahmedabad. These are the pitches you want where the ball comes nicely onto the bat. So I think that's the reason that their mindset does not match their template.
Definitely. And I think England will be hurting a lot from this World Cup because I think we also read somewhere that Champions Trophy qualification is based on, the top eight from this World Cup. And there are reports that a lot of teams didn't know about, this as well. So I'll take both your opinions on this. Let's start with Srijan and then Anuj. So now Champions Trophy is again quite important. It's quite an important ICC event. And if England has to go through like the whole qualifying thing and all, do you think it's going to be very bizarre, or is that how the ebbs and flows of the game are now?
No, I think the rules are very clear. If you look at an article, I think it was from the ESPN Cricket Info, that states that when the planning for the next cycle was happening, the 2019 to 23 or 25 cycle, that was when the rules were discussed, and it was decided way back then that the standings in the top seven plus Pakistan as the host will be your top eight for the Champions Trophy. Teams suddenly realizing this and saying that we never knew about this, I think it's slightly unfair because the boards and the deciding authorities, all of it was decided right well in advance. Right, it was not something that came up. Even if it came up just before the World Cup started, uh, it is not like that. But it didn't come at the start of the World Cup as well. So the teams knew about this all along, and suddenly waking up to something, it's like that test that is always there, but you suddenly waking up and realizing, oh, I have so many chapters to cover or so many units to cover. It's something like that. And it's slightly unfortunate that England, being that white ball beast that they have, not being there, suddenly will be slightly bizarre as you mentioned, but it is what it is at the end of the day. uh, if England shouldn't be there, they shouldn't be there purely based on the virtue that they have not been in the top seven, and their cricket has also reflected that in the World Cup. So it's slightly unfair that we don't see a champion side like England. But having said that, sides like Netherlands, even after not playing so much cricket that other teams do, they still have a chance to do that. So that would be nice to see Netherlands or some other team come in place because they truly deserve to be there. Yeah, based on the virtue that they played the World Cup in. So yeah.
And I'd also like to bring in this aspect now. The Champions Trophy is going to be held in Pakistan, right? So, Anuj, do you actually see this being a problem for India because of the political tensions that we share with our cross-border neighbors? It's going to be quite complicated with the visas and ensuring everything happens on time. And the BCCI is obviously going to have a large say, even the Indian government, right? If we'll be participating there. So, how do you see that playing out?
Yeah, see, certainly it's 2 years down the line, so we don't really know what the conditions or the situation between the two countries will be at that time. Certainly, we had an idea that 2023 the Asia Cup won't happen in Pakistan, like because of the situation. So I think that it will completely depend on what happens in the other stratosphere. If you say that between the two countries, if the relations improve. So yeah, that's still a long way out. I think that after this World Cup, hopefully, if India win, we'll have that kind of hangover. Then after that, 6 months we will have a T20 World Cup to worry about. So I think that the focus will go on the shortest format after the World Cup. This all Champions Trophy thing will come afterward. And certainly, to add to what Srijan said, it will be a shame to not have England if they still can do it. They have to win both their games, which is good for them because they have something to play for. Like it's not that it's all over for them; it is something to achieve. And yeah, certainly teams like Afghanistan and Netherlands have shown that if you try to make a competition where only top eight teams can play, we will get into the top eight teams sometimes. So that is good to see. Good to see more teams pushing each other. Even in football, you see so many more teams playing. So I certainly feel that Champions Trophy is almost a tournament of sudden death. Like I think there are two groups of four teams each, and that's it. Like if you lose one game, you have to win the next two. So it is always tricky, and that is what brings the excitement in it. Even teams like Afghanistan now, they have shown that on good pitches, not just on ranked turns, on good pitches they can beat you in all three departments. So yeah, that's good thing for world cricket. And England will have to earn their place now. They have to beat Netherlands first, which is kind of becoming like a derby, like because whoever wins probably will go through in that eighth spot. So yeah, it will be nice to see and what they do to Pakistan also in Kolkata.
Definitely. And, as you rightly said, the Champions Trophy is long off. We still have a lot of other ICC events before that to worry about. Now, let's, take our conversation to the last segment of our episode where we will give a quick preview of the game that, starts in probably less than 3 hours, right? We have India taking on South Africa. So, Srijan, are you excited about this game? Because both the teams are coming in with great form, and there's just so much hype, right? India's batting versus South Africa's bowling, and South Africa's batting as well versus India's bowling. So we see how it's like evenly matched across like all frontiers. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Before the World Cup started, a lot of analysts and former cricketers, they said the match of the tournament is going to be India versus England, and that turned out to be a no contest between India and England, wherein India completely dominated England and got those 2 points. But right now, if you ask me what the match of the tournament is going to be, it is going to be India and South Africa, because there's so little that's separating both these sides right now. Uh, Having said that, India batted first in the last two encounters. That's something that they have not done in the last five matches, coming into those last two games. So they are also comfortable batting first and posting runs on the board. South Africa, on the other hand, they almost bottled the chase against Pakistan, and the last 10, 15 balls, or even before that, the last 4, 5 overs, the way they have got uh, the way they got home eventually in Chennai, I think that was something that will still be playing on their mind, that they have not been able to chase total convincingly. Having said that, India have slight edge, having been batted first in two games and then being a good chasing side as well. On the bowling front, the absence of Hardik Pandya, now that he is ruled out, is a slight dampener, but still India possesses a slight edge over South Africa. It will be a cracker of the game, and that too it's in Kolkata, where the outfield is lightning fast and the ball comes onto the bat nicely as well. So it will be a great game to watch, and probably the match of the tournament again, as I said. So yeah, looking forward to it. It's going to be a great game.
Certainly, and today is also Virat Kohli's birthday, so the Indian team would be on that hype, to get that big win. So, Anuj, any key matchups that you are looking forward to, and likely team compositions that the team would want to opt for, considering they are playing at the Eden Gardens, and the conditions can be kind of tricky. So, what do you think about that?
I feel the way India's last two league games are placed, I feel that this is a game where they would have an option to rotate their quicks. I think with Prasidh Krishna now in the squad, see, if you play a full strength squad against South Africa and then rest them against Netherlands, then you are having a risk of playing a knockout game after 11 days of rest. I feel that is more risky. I feel you should go with a full strength team against Netherlands, as in bowling attack. I don't think the batting will change in either of the two games. But yeah, maybe you can give Bumrah a rest. He's an important bowler. We have seen what happened with Hardik, what an impact injury can do. So India certainly can't afford to lose any one of Bumrah, Siraj, or Shami. So I think that if Shami being in the rhythm that he is, he can continue. Even Siraj for that matter. But yeah, I might be tempted to bring Shardul in place of Bumrah, just to give Bumrah that rest. Like he has played on the 29th, he has played on the second as well. So like 3 games in a week, that will take a toll in ODIs. So I think that definitely this is the one change that I will look for. But yeah, I understand when Rohit said that no one is wanting a rest because they are in that rhythm, the adrenaline is pumping. So yeah, that the one matchup that if Bumrah plays is has to be De Kock versus Bumrah, because they both have played each other a lot in the nets at Mumbai Indians. They have played against each other. I think Bumrah has dismissed him 6 times in international cricket. So uh, that's certainly, it will be great to see if he can stop De Kock from having a dream World Cup that he's having right now. So that's certainly one battle that I would look forward to.
Certainly. And Srijan, what are your thoughts on who would do what winning the toss? Like, what would be more ideal? And do you have a quick prediction? I think I'll have Srijan answer this first, and then Anuj.
Yeah, I think if the side wins the toss, especially if India wins the toss, they should look to bat first and put runs on the board again. Uh, and then if you look at the average scores, I think the average score for the first innings in Eden Gardens is 290 for 8, and then the second innings is 267 for 8. So there's a slight advantage batting first as well. And coming to our combination, I think India will look to go unchanged. Yes, our bowlers need rest, and that's been highlighted as well. But the addition of Prasad gives us an option to probably rest one of our fast bowlers, but uh, it's to be seen whether India will be doing it. And India, in all probability, will be looking to win this match, because if they lose this match, they go to number two and they will be facing Australia in the semi final. So, out of Australia or say New Zealand or Pakistan, one of the teams that will eventually qualify, if you ask an Indian fan who they will likely face, they'll probably say New Zealand or Pakistan as well. So uh, Australia, with the way they're picking up right now, I think it's much rather easier to face one of New Zealand or Pakistan, the teams that qualify, because it's 1 versus 4 and 2 versus 3. So uh, all focus will be on winning this game, and then looking to see what they will do against Netherlands. So, but the primary focus for Indians in this particular game should be win the toss, put bat first, look to see if South Africa can chase this trophy, and then putting up a good show. But also having said that, the law of averages is due to catch India. They've been on a 7 match winning streak. Hopefully, it's not this game. But having said that, it's going to be a cracker of a game. India, if they win the toss, they'll be looking to bat.
And Anuj, what do you think about what the winning team should win the toss and do?
See, as I said, it really depends on perspective. Like, if you want to prepare yourself for the worst situation, like what if you are batting under lights in a semi-final, then you can ask South Africa to bat first, but then again, the same thing as Srijan said, that if they are thinking that way to finish top, they will want to bat first. But personally speaking, I have experienced this in 2019. We were all happy when we faced, when we came to know that we are facing New Zealand and not England, and then we know what happened. So I feel that it doesn't matter who we face in the semi-final or the final. You have to beat what is in front of you, and I feel that right now, giving priority to the fitness of the players, to the workload, I would say is more important than anything else. So I would definitely be tempted to play both Shardul and Prasid and rest Bumrah and Siraj. But then yeah, if they go with the same 11, yeah, no one's complaining as long as they are fit.
Right, and either case, we are looking forward to a cracker of a game. So fingers crossed to see this spectacle, because two of the strongest team squaring off against each other on a Sunday is definitely so much to look forward to. And yeah, that pretty much does conclude our discussion. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all our panelists, for joining us today and sharing your lovely insights as well. And I'd also like to thank our viewers who watched us live and shared all your questions, insights, and analysis. It definitely helped us a lot, and we hope you also had something to take away. And we look forward to seeing you in our future shows as well. We will be doing a live show every Sunday, with cricket fans like this. So make sure to follow and subscribe to Never on the Backfoot on Instagram, X, and YouTube as well. We have an audio podcast on Spotify where Anuj and Srijan have also, graced the podcast as guests. So please do check that out as well. So yeah, bye and thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.